Welcome to the second Luke tutorial. Today I'll focus on various shortcuts and old Army tricks you can use to analyze your text data in helpful ways. Okay, I learned about old Army tricks from my father, who was a pilot in World War II. He was an inventive guy who was always coming up with little tricks to make his planes function more effectively. When I grew up, he constantly came up with what he called old Army tricks to do such things as pulling a stuck bread out of a toaster with a nail or using duct tape to make a hat. I could go on. So the old Army tricks we'll talk about today fall into four topics: categories and categorization of words, segmenting, using dictionaries, and a smattering of other tools. Let's begin our word snooping with a famous text file. This is the ransom note from the John Benet Ramsey kidnapping that occurred in 1996. 6-year-old John Benet had disappeared, and this note was left behind. You might pause the video and read the note. It's haunting and disturbing, even more so because her body was found in the house about 8 hours after the parents notified authorities. Now assume that we want to get a better sense of the language of the kidnapping note. We'll start by analyzing it using LIWC. Open LIWC, select the ransom file document, and click the Run LIWC button on the bottom right, and the LIWC results pop up. And here you see all the LIWC output variables you've seen before. Okay, let's dig deeper by exploring the categories of language that LIWC analyzes. On the LIWC analysis page, click the Categories tab. What you see are all the categories that are part of the LIWC internal dictionary. At the top are a number of summary dimensions, below are word categories including function words, pronouns, and articles, and below that are emotion and cognitive words, drives, and general topics. Now imagine that you only wanted to know how the author used pronouns like I, we, you, etc. At the bottom of the page, click on the Select None, and all the categories are removed. Then just click on the previous pronouns themselves. You can now rerun LIWC with just these words, and here's a stripped-down output. After running the analysis, remember to return to the category page to turn all the dimensions on again. Now, so let's look at word categories in a very different way. On the left menu, go down to the Case Studies menu and click on it. From here, you can analyze a single text, or you can type or paste text directly. Let's return to the ransom note, click on and load that file, and the text appears below. On the bottom of the page are several options, but we'll click on Colored Code. It's fairly straightforward from here. For example, let's look at personal pronouns. Click the Colored Code button. Now you can see the person's use of pronouns once we click on it. Now let's see how the person uses pronouns in cognitive process words, words like think, believe, etc. Pronouns are in blue, cogproc words are in green. I love the color coding because it gives a much more personal picture of language use. After I've been looking at the numbers generated by the standard LIWC output, I can get into people's heads better. Let's move on to the next old Army trick, segmentation. Sometimes it's helpful to see how a text unfolds over time. We're going to look at the 1,800-page manifesto of the 32-year-old man who murdered 77 people in Norway in 2011. For starters, I'll load the giant file, which has over 740,000 words, which is about 50% more words than War and Peace. I only want to look at a small number of categories, and to do this, I'll uncheck all the variables and then just check some of my favorites like word count and I and we words and positive and negative emotion words. Now I click the Run LIWC button on the bottom right, and this will take a little bit longer than usual given the size of the file. Now as you'll see, there are very low rates of I and we words and relatively low emotion words. This gives me an overview of the person's thinking, but I want to see how his writing and thinking unfolded over time. And to do this, I go to the Segmentation tab. In the menu, I click the second option. This allows me to set the number of segments, and I'll choose 20. Click OK, open the text file again, and wait for the results. And once this happens, I will open them in Results. So here are the 20 segments of the manifesto arranged from the beginning to the final section, with each section being about 37,000 words. The first column captures analytic, logical, or formal thinking. Look what happens to his numbers in his final chapter. These lower numbers could reflect more disorganized thinking. I words like I, me, and mine shoot up at the end. This is often a sign of depression or even psychotic thinking. Indeed, the killer was later diagnosed as paranoid schizophrenic. Finally, his positive emotion language also increased at the end, just before going on his rampage, and we see similar patterns in people who are suicidal. You can now see how segmenting text can give us a different kind of picture. Let's go to the next topic, which is dictionaries. This section will be brief since the next tutorial will discuss dictionaries in greater detail. Okay, we'll start by looking at the dictionary menu. You'll first see all the internal LIWC dictionaries available, including the new LIWC-22 one, as well as a German dictionary. At the bottom, you can click on the internal dictionary tab, and it will allow you to see each of the dictionaries and all the words within them. It comes in an incomprehensible PDF format, but if you expand the view, which I can do with the sliding bar at the bottom, it all comes into view. You can see, for example, this is the memory dictionary. Now let's get out of this and go back and click on Get More Dictionaries on the bottom. This takes you to the LIWC website, and by going to the LIWC Translations button, you can see and download a number of dictionaries that have been translated into multiple languages. You can also get out of this and go to the user-made dictionaries that researchers around the world have donated. Be sure and check them out. There's some great and interesting dictionaries here. Finally, when we get out of this, I'll show you how to load your own external dictionary. As it happens, I have a color dictionary that I made for demo purposes, and I click on the Load External Dictionary link and get color.dic dictionary. I click it and it loads, and now you can see the categories in the category menu, and sure enough, there are a lot of colors. So what would be an interesting corpus to analyze color words with? How about a group of poems written by suicidal and non-suicidal poets? Which group do you think writes about yellow and green, and how about black? Well, let's load the folder and now run LIWC. And here are multiple poems from about 18 poets, and at the bottom, I've got the mean color usage of suicidal poets and non-suicidal. In this Excel file, counter to what I predicted, suicidal poets tend to use more upbeat colors, yellow, green, red, and metallic. And the only color used more by non-suicidal poets was, drum roll please, was actually black. Very much counter to what I expected. God, I love this job. Finally, a brief discussion of some other tools. Let's start with the settings options. In the About tab, you have your version number and serial number and your activation status. For example, I have 7 days left on this one. Note that you can have your copy of LIWC on multiple computers but can only have active licenses on 2. Consequently, if you have one at work and one at home, you can activate your serial number on a friend's computer, but will have to deactivate one of the other ones to allow it. At the bottom is the official reference for LIWC. The primary issues in the Import-Export tab concern using LIWC in different countries and languages. UTF-8 encoding is most common in English. If your text isn't English, you will likely need to change your encoding. The CSV delimiters in the US are typically commas, but are often different in other countries. The processing settings cover several issues. Date and other formats vary by country and region. Adjust your locale as needed. LIWC is able to run millions of rows that can involve thousands of columns. To display such large files eats up a great deal of computer memory. We've set the limits at 1,000 rows and 100 columns. Change them as needed. Note that when the output file is saved in CSV or other format, the entire output is preserved. For those with particularly powerful computers, the number of threads can be increased to optimize speed. Also, the current decimal default is 2, but can be changed here. Additional settings can be changed for pruning in n-gram analyses. Finally, the look and feel setting is important if your LIWC display on your computer is much too large or too small. To adjust this, change the application window scale accordingly. Finally, at the bottom of the menu is the magical help button. When you click it, it will take you to a secure website that you can only access if you are logged into LIWC, or at least have your serial number handy. The help page is continuously updated. Spend some time on each of the links. If you can't find what you need, please contact us by going to the button at the top of the page. I hope this is helpful. I look forward to seeing you again.